Welcome to Farm and Ranch Days. This is the local meat production and processors session with Amanda Winchester, and you're a professor at CWC, right?
Yes. Sorry, I'm a little slow today. Okay, so I am a little bit crippled. I had not planned on being crippled, but yesterday I kind of took a digger, so let me get my stuff out of the way. So I'm gonna try to sit down and talk a little bit today. So, my name is Amanda Winchester, and I am the CWC Meat Science Instructor. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about local meat production and a little bit about our program. So the meat processing industry, nearly all the meat processing plants in Wyoming and the nation face a shortage of workers. Unfilled positions impact the production capacity of the processing plants, eventually impacting the operation bottom line. In 2019, the estimated slaughtering capacity for Wyoming processors was 21,320 annually, with 7,020 heads slaughtered at federally inspected plants and 14,300 heads slaughtered at state inspected plants. The number of federally inspected plants has grown since this study. Fremont County alone has gained 2 federally inspected plants, and CWC is coming on the 3rd. We're in the final process of getting our inspection done, and we'll be up and running within a couple of weeks. So our workforce, Wyoming has a higher rate of labor forces participating compared to the United States has declined in recent years. Wyoming has a higher percentage rate across all age groups compared to the United States. Wyoming has a high concentration of jobs in government, construction, oil and gas, and agriculture compared to the nation. Cattle ranching is growing in Wyoming, and cattle ranching has a significant presence in Wyoming compared to the nation. Yet slaughtering and processing lag behind national averages. Slaughtering and processing have high job multipliers related to the industries, including cattle ranching. So then we go to supply chain opportunities. For Wyoming slaughter and processing industries to operate, more than 88% of the goods and services they need must be imported. Overall, just 1/3 of the beef supply needs are met within the region, while the remaining 2/3 of requirements are purchased from outside the region. As Wyoming processors examine new markets, they must be aware of their direct and indirect costs, efficiencies, and margins. If Wyoming processors want to sell directly, they must invest heavily in a sales force and compete on a quality and convenience basis. As demand grows, so will the ability of the processor to compete with the larger economics of the scale and that exists in the beef industry. Here's a chart from 2018, the beef value chain in Wyoming. So it shows here the animal production, demand, and met in region, the percentage, so we're only at 53%. The imports is at 47%. Animal slaughter is only 23%, where demand met by imports is 77%. That is a huge difference and that we need to address within our state. Meat processed from carcasses, in Wyoming, we only do 1%. And then the demand met by imports was 99%. In Wyoming, we have $0 and 0% of meat rendering and processing. And all of that is brought in from outside the area.
What does rendering mean?
Rendering is like byproducts. So you have your hides, your fat, all of those products that we have nowhere for them to go. They go to the dump. Total beef cluster, we are at 36%, and demand met by imports is 64%. As you can see here, that we have a long ways to go and a lot of improvement that we can do. So, skilled training. This is where CWC comes into play. CWC is providing 2 different options for training. We have the Meat Science Certificate, and we have the Associates of Science. So our meat science certificate, it talks a little bit on the flyer that you got. It is a semester-long course where the students learn everything from dealing with proper paperwork, HACCP training, slaughtering, aging, fabricating, and then the end product and dealing with the customer and the consumers. Let me go back up. So the Associates of Science, they get through the same class as the certificate, but they go on and get more ag-related classes to get their Associates of Science. With this, they can then go on to university. So the purpose of these programs is to train students to be well-educated employees. As I talked earlier, the skilled labor force for the industry is way behind, and that we need to provide employees to be able to produce more in our state. They can transfer to the university, get a degree in meat science or animal science. What can you do with a meat science degree? Does anybody know what you can do with a meat science degree?
You said we can become an inspector.
Yeah. You can become a USDA or state inspector, or you can run your own meat plant or a large facility. You can be the manager. So there's a lot of options out there for students, and there's a lot of need for trained employees too. So what will the students learn? So the purpose of the program is to teach the students all aspects of meat processing, from slaughtering, USDA and state regulations, the HACCP plan that I talked about earlier. So that's hazard analysis, critical control points plan. That is food safety. So we will learn proper food safety, the fabrication, knowing where their cuts come from, knowing what the name of the cuts, where they come from on the carcass, and how to actually cut them. So then they'll learn proper labeling, which is a key. So, there's a big push right now for labeling in the industry so that you actually know where your meat comes from, which origin, which producer. So it can have the producer's name, the date, everything on it for proper labeling. Packaging. So they will learn both vacuum sealing and paper wrap. So when they go out into the industry, they will be able to do whichever the industry that position deals with. So dealing with the producers and customers. I think this is huge. So all of you, or some of you, are producers in this room. And so my students will learn how to arrange with the producers, to track the animals of the producers, and then how to deal with them as a customer. All right, so how the CWC Meat Science program works. In mobile slaughter, we will take the trailer to the house and slaughter on site. This purpose is to put less stress on the animals. This will result in the end product of higher quality. The purpose of the mobile slaughter is that the less time the animal has to travel, go to a new environment, then they have less stress. This, in the end, provides a better, higher quality product with less stress. Bringing the carcass back to our meat lab and age the carcass for 10 to 14 days for beef, pork, and lamb is less. Then we transfer the carcass into the cut and wrap and fabrication the carcass into steaks, roast, and ground meat. All of this will be done under a USDA inspector. This will allow the producer or consumer to sell the product and keep for their own consumption. Thank you. Change it to Google Slides and it messes with my slides. We're using students as a workforce, so they get very hands-on training so they can be exceptional or excited to go out into the workforce. Thank you, guys. This will provide much needed employees for the local processors. No, that's not the right one. All right, so.
How many of those mobile labs do you have? Just one?
Yeah. So we have our meat business, and so we're here to provide a service. There we go. For the customers, for the producers. So it'll be Rustler Cattle Company, but the main purpose of this is to teach our students. So they will get very hands-on experience and provide a service for the producers. So any questions and stuff that you guys want me to talk about or go over?
What's happening in Wyoming, Amanda? Is there, how many new plants you think are coming online?
I know that several are transitioning that were existing plants are transitioning to USDA. I don't know the facts and figures of how many new actual plants, new plants are opening. I know that several are trying to transition into USDA. The purpose of that is because then they can sell their product as a retail end, and then the producer can sell it more as a retail end. So I know that the Cody plant that was already USDA is looking to build multiply by 3, I think, to build a larger plant to keep up with the industry to try to get more in. 307 Meats in Laramie has come upon us from, what was it, 4 years ago? And they wish they would have built a bigger facility to keep up. I know Frank's in Hudson also transitioned to USDA, and they are also building a larger facility to keep up with demand. Genuine Meats just opened last summer up here on Airport Hill, and I know that they're booked out too. So I mean, we have a lot of options, but I don't know as far as new plants go. I think a lot of the existing have jumped up to USDA. I feel that USDA is I'm not bashing any custom exempt or state inspected plants, but I think USDA gives you more options for your producers and yourself.
What if you sell a lot of steaks when
Well, you can, and you can sell easier to customers in state too. So farmer markets and sell direct to the consumer and things with producers, they have more options with that. So, and then it's on their labeling. Labeling is a big thing with USDA, that you have to label the producer, where it was cut up, the date, and everything. So that makes a big difference too with their products, so that the consumer then has more of a traceable product to where their local meat comes from. So one of our main things for CWC is working on local meats. Our goal is to try to inform the consumer where their food comes from. I think that's important within the industry, and within consumers need to know more where their food comes from. Like I said, when you go to the grocery store, you don't even know what region your food's coming from, where the meat's coming from. You don't even know if it's from this country. I mean, there's no labeling laws right now that tell you any information. I think labeling with our USDA is one of the key factors that we can really, as producers and consumers, then know where our food comes from. When COVID hit and you go to the grocery store and there's no meat in the counters, everybody kind of panicked. And I think it was a good thing for producers and processing plants, because people started to realize they needed to pay attention where their food came from. So I think it's kind of an eye-opener. I'm not saying it was a great thing for the food shortage during that time, but it really opened people's eyes to know that they need to pay more attention to where their food comes from, and not just go to the grocery store and pick up a couple steaks. So.
Especially in the lamb business.
Yes, absolutely. The lamb industry in the state of Wyoming is very limited to where they can have their product, processed. I know that Frank's quit doing lamb. I know that several plants feel that financially that they can't do it. So I know that the lamb industry is still having to ship out of state to get anything processed. Our goal, even though, lamb is not going to be, make it rich or anything, but our goal is to try to fill that void for a lot of the producers. Lamb is, I grew up showing lambs. I was always part of the lamb industry, that's very important to me. And I think it's a key factor that our state really is missing the boat there. So that is going to be something that we're looking into very deeply to be able to provide that service. So.
What standards do you teach your kids for cutting to? The standards for cutting meat?
Oh, okay. So they will learn, I guess how to put this for you.
Is it North American Meat Institute?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So right now, my students that are sitting in the room are learning the cuts and where they come from and things to know. I think that's a big key thing, even for consumers, that they don't really know what they're buying. Okay, so that steak's on sale. Is that really a good steak? Is it high quality? Where does it come from? You know, I think as even consumers, you need to be a well-educated consumer. And, you know, I feel that, yes, they will learn knife skills. Yes, they will learn that. But I think that's key, that they need to be a well-rounded student, that
Well, it
they
helps
need to
the-
know that.
It helps the producer explain to the
Yes.
butcher shop what they expect and
Yep.
expectation the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really think that's key, that that the students learn everything. I mean, there are aspects that we've been working on, even from the history of the meat industry to the meat acts to, you know, the basics of everything, and to learn quality and yield grade and all of those things that they may not necessarily have to use in their, you know, as an employee, but they will have the knowledge to help the producer know what he's getting, or knowledge to help the producer learn that this is a better quality and that's a better quality, and what they need to push for. You know, I think that's really key, is that, yeah, I am totally about 100% about local foods, about knowing where your food comes from, but we also need to educate ourselves on what that quality product is, what it looks like in the cooler. So,
What are some of the side enterprises that this could stimulate, producing here locally?
you mean for my students or as a business?
Like businesses, like for the community that, so, kind of for the community to get on the bandwagon of this local food production?
Well, a couple different things. I mean, the students can then maybe eventually open their own plant, and you know, as we talked, there's a limited amount of processors in the state, and they can then venture out, have the knowledge to venture out, to know all aspects from the business side to everything, to venture out to help producers. The other thing is we're gonna try to fill a little bit of a void that the producers are feeling, because they, you know, can't get in for 6 months, and that means 6 more months of feed for their product. You know, we're not there to take away from local processors. That's not our goal, but our goal is to help fill the void that's out there, that we still, I mean, we're still shipping out of state to get things processed. We need to help fill that void, and then my students can then venture out and add more employees. They can venture out and start their own businesses. I mean, there's so many opportunities for the students once they go through the program to venture out in different angles. So does that kind of answer your question? Okay.
So do they have an opportunity for some kind of like, so that they get out of the program and then they're gonna go out and they wanna stay locally, do they have an opportunity for like some kind of funding?
Well, so as the students go through the program, they're gonna have in-service times, or not in-service, they're gonna have where they go out and work in the plants themselves, internships.
Oh, okay.
And so they'll have a relationship within those processors, so they'll have that relationship. One of the local processors keeps trying to steal my student. He's foaming at the mouth for him to get done so that he can come work. You know, they will have a relationship with the processors to be able to then just slip in and say, okay, you know, here I am, I have knowledge, I'm ready to go. So,
Amanda, they will be certified meat cutters, and
Yes.
they could go down to Smith's, or,
Yep.
I don't think they cut meat anymore there, but anyway.
yeah.
They cut up rivals.
They do cut up primals, yeah. So yes, they will have a certificate that says they've gone through the course and they're HACCP trained. And that's huge, even in the grocery stores, that you have that food safety. You know the process, but it's even bigger in the processing plants, that you know all of the food safety regulations, rules, how to, you know, prevent things from happening instead of chasing your tail after it's happened. You know, a lot of the food laws have changed over the years because of that, because they were reacting instead of trying to get it before it happens, you know. And so I think that's where a lot of the food laws have helped in the industry, is so that we prevent things instead of reacting after the fact. So
Do you see meat prices staying high like they are now?
well, everything's high right now. Inflation is through the roof. I think that meat prices, we train people to buy locally, and things that the big four won't have as such a hold over our state. I think that that's really the prices of meat, it's just from the big four. It's not that the ranchers and producers are making money, it's that the big four is gouging us. They have a monopoly and they kind of set their own whatever, and you know that the government and the United States is trying to fight against them a little bit, but you know, big companies tend to bully the government, so.
Well, and in a sense, we need them.
We do need them. I mean, they process a lot, and we do need them, but they need to realize that they're not the only players in
Clean
the
up
game.
their act a little.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, do you see some growth maybe in the rendering, things like that? Because now the big four been gouging like crazy.
Mhm.
But historically, that's not always been the case. And historically, you get into the margin being the
Mhm.
rendering and things like that. So as we have smaller plants on a smaller scale, to stay competitive if and when things turn around to more like normal,
Mhm.
I would think to stay competitive, that we're gonna need to get to a scale to where they're making use of that rather than just hauling it to the dump and
Yep.
everything. Because there will be a time that consumers now with COVID, with empty shelves, with
Mhm.
things like that, everything is sky high.
Mhm.
But what happens when we go back to a more normal thing and they go back to just looking at strictly at price?
Yeah.
We have to somehow figure
Oh,
out
we do.
how
We
to get
have
them
to
trained in
Figure that out.
looking at quality and things, and then also work a little more efficiencies on these smaller plants.
Yes, I agree. You know, part of the problem is like even our hides. There's no place in the state that even buys them anymore. So I mean, we're so dependent on other countries for things that you know that it's too expensive for us to ship the hides to China to have them do anything with it. You know, a lot of that is the lack of our state industry, part of it. But it doesn't mean that we can't find ways to make that useful. I know that Genuine Meats is looking at, they have a tanning place that they're trying to figure out to use their hides. I mean, they're trying to find ways to make it, you know, to have that availability and do things. But again, finding employees, finding, you know, things to fill those voids is gonna take a while. I don't know why, and this is not just the meat industry or anything, people aren't wanting to work. We have to change things so that people wanna work again so that we can try to go back to normal. I don't know how to fix that.
I do,
How's,
get hungry.
well,
There you
yeah.
go.
And I'm sorry, that's why we used to work, cause we was hungry.
That's
Yes.
right. That makes the most sense.
I know,
That
I
makes the
know,
most
I know,
sense.
I know. We could go on a big rant about how things have changed. Yes.
So Amanda, is this program up and running? Who can use it? How do you get animals consigned? What do you-
Okay,
If you
so
only got one or two and you can't find any place else to butcher them?
yes, absolutely. So we had our second inspection yesterday, and then in a couple weeks, the final inspection to get our plant rolling should be happening. We've been asking since August for the USDA to come and do this, and so you know they've dragged their feet because they're shorthanded. I mean, they're just so far behind, which is not okay with me, but I can't fix that. So
You're not taking animals right now?
no, but in a few weeks we should be.
Graduated guy, maybe him the inspector and have the inspector.
True, I know, true. We had our second walkthrough yesterday, so we have all the pieces in place. We just are waiting for that final grant of inspection. So I mean, it's a couple weeks.
So
So
when you are ready, will you be able to do that
Yes.
for our county, for
Yes.
people that just?
yes, absolutely. We Brent, where's Brent sitting? I know he's here somewhere.
Back in the back.
Oh, Brent
Corner.
is our meat lab manager, and so he will be running it full time, and me and my students will be using it as an educational tool, but they'll also be the workforce for us. So
Okay.
Yeah, so
Just keep
absolutely.
listening, huh,
Yeah.
for the day.
Yeah, so we, like I said, we're not here to take away business from, Bo and other plants in the area.
They
We're
don't
just
want,
here
they
to.
don't want our business, you can't get them in.
Yeah, so we're just here to try to help the producers fill that void, so, and use it as an educational tool, so, absolutely, we're just in the final process, so.
So if somebody goes through that class and they have their own little place, they could basically maybe butcher at their own home?
Well, absolutely, like, Patty, they slaughter on their ranch in California, and she lives here, but her dad has the ranch in California. She's taking the class so she knows how to go home and help them slaughter and process their own stuff. So, I mean, absolutely, the class can teach people to do that. I mean, with us being mobile and different things, they will learn how to slaughter on site, how to do things. So, they will have those tools and knowledge to be able to do it at home. Absolutely. So.
Well, I know by law, seemed like, unless they change it all the time, you could butcher your own on the place,
Mhm.
then it wasn't a big deal, go get it cut. Some of them wouldn't do it, of course, like Frank's and stuff, but there's other ones where you could take them, because the butchering was the real problem.
Mhm.
That's where the real laws come in.
Well, I know that there's the place, and I can't remember the name. Do you know the name of the place out?
High country.
There you go. That they do that. They don't slaughter on site, so I know that they do that. So.
Yeah, it's getting rid of all the byproduct when you slaughter that actually causes the biggest problem with the
It does.
inspectors.
It does. Originally, and our goal was to put a lot of the byproducts back into the producers' place to put back into their soil and things to compost it. The DEQs has a different view on that. But, that was our goal originally, is to have it put back into the soil at the producer's house, so.
And part of the problem is tastes have changed. At one time, lard was really important,
Mhm, absolutely.
but now, we used to render it down here at the end of Monroe years ago. Anyway, and the tallow, but there's no market for it.
Yeah, there isn't. I mean, a lot of people don't cook with lard anymore.
They don't know how to make pies.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's a very small window that you would have for products,
That's
but
all, yeah.
but lard goes into so many different makeup. It goes into so many different
I think,
products
yeah.
that we just have to find a way to get it to the right person that needs it. Within our industry.
Do you know, I don't know if you would know this, but do all the community colleges in Wyoming have a similar program?
No, we are the only one that has a full-fledged program. And so I know that they offer like a small module within their ag classroom and things, but nobody else has a full-fledged meat science program. So,
And then at the high school, do they have a way to kind of like promote kids into that?
so I have been going and talking to high schools about it, and I did a class at the Riverton High School the other day, kind of introducing them to knowing their cuts, knowing where the cuts come from and things, and trying to get them involved a little bit so that they know that this industry is even out there. That's part of the problem with employees that, in school we have auto, we have wood, we have welding, we have these things, but we sometimes forget some of the parts of ag that, yes, we have a great ag programs within the schools, don't get me wrong, but we need to remind those kids that maybe aren't in the ag program that there's this industry out there, that we need to reach other students within the high school. I went to county fair last year to try to talk to people. I went to state fair. I talked to several ag teachers, and they were excited and wanted to get their students involved in some way of this. We are going to do, once we're up and running, we are going to be putting on small competitions for some of the FFA kids and things within it, so that they see that we're here, see the process. The meats judging, Dad and I don't know where he went, but Dad and I have coached. I've coached for the last 30 years with him. He's coached longer. Trying to get the community to realize that there's this industry out there and to know what you're eating and why. I think that's important, that we reach kids at a younger age so that they even know this industry's out there and have this opportunity to maybe find a career that can be sustainable and that they can build a great career and not go to college for 5 years and,
Yeah.
you know, spend all this money. So, I think you can be, you know, you can find work that pays very well to be a good meat processor. And so I think we just need to get the word out there with the younger generation that there's opportunities out there, for them.
Meat cutting's hard work.
It is, it's
Yeah,
very
it is.
labor intensive and you have to be able to, you know,
Pick up a quarter of beef.
be able to, yeah, well, not jump out of things when you're, you have to be able to stand on hard surfaces and work long hours. I mean, and in cold temperature. So, you know, it is a very grueling work, but there are people that find their passion in it, and we need to find employees like that. You're always going to have a large turnaround, no matter how good of a plant you have, because people think they can handle it, and they get in there and they realize they can't. So we need to try to reach more people to get them the knowledge, and let them decide this is for me. You know.
We're kind of have a breakover period now, aren't we? Because we've got high demand and now stay with us. But meat is high, you know.
Oh,
you
it's
got-
absolutely
Meat
high.
is high here, but the price from the producer is really low.
Mm-hmm.
And with all predictions now, it looks like that could switch.
Well, I hope
You know.
so. I hope so. I mean, that's.
But I mean, what's that gonna do to the margins for these people in the small plants where your live beef is high and the price of beef at the counter goes down?
Yeah,
I mean, it could easily switch.
it could easily switch. I think though that we need to focus on local foods though, because you train people to beyond the price to know where their food comes from. So regardless whether the market is high or low, that they still want to buy from that producer it doesn't matter. They know where their food's coming from. So I think that's where we, you know, try to level out that market, is so that we train people to know where their food comes from and to get it from certain producers or something, and they don't, you know, the producer ends up making a better dollar, the price is where it needs to be. I think that's really where local foods will help level that out.
And I think the USDA inspection will allow some branding by local people to start
Absolutely.
marketing things.
Absolutely.
There are some people here that are starting to do certain things even at convenience stores and things
Yep.
around the state. I have a relation back east that a lot of dairy stuff had went out, now they have stores right at the farm and then come out, see the cattle graze and everything like that. People pick up 1 or 2 steaks or whatever on the way home there.
Mm-hmm.
And they can get that extra bonus right there by doing
Absolutely.
that. And when you can start freezer storing things and selling piece by piece, that makes a option there that we've never had before by having to sell it, you know, a half or a quarter or something before it was processed.
Yeah, so I know that Frank's has that meat counter where you can buy, you know, local beef, and you're gonna have a meat counter too, right, eventually? And things like that. So, I mean, there are options then that we can go directly to Genuine Meats on our way home and pick up a couple of steaks to eat. I mean, I really think that we need to train the consumer to know where their food comes from. I think that's just key, so that they wanna buy that better product. They realize the difference. You know, I, just in some hamburger that we had, processed and things, I had, you know, eaten and then had family over and they're like, this is unbelievably different. And I'm like, yeah, it's cause you know where your food came from. You know, you're not just buying the cheap stuff.
Start with a burger that big that's this big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
And on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all going back to knowing where your food comes from. You know, we have to train, the consumers to know that it's a better product,
Quality versus quantity.
yes. Yes.
And they'll pay for it.
Yeah, they will. They will. You know, I got a half a beef last year and have it in my freezer before I even started doing any of this. And it's a local producer and it's huge difference. I mean, huge difference than the meat at the grocery store. it's,
Well, and a lot of that comes down to the processing too, though.
absolutely,
If you can do, even if it costs more, if you can do some extra hang time or some things like
Absolutely.
that, makes a big difference too.
absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, I think that's key. Even, we're going to try to, process and provide our meat for our school. You know, and so we're gonna be buying, you know, animals from local producer just to provide meat for our school. That's our goal. One of our industry things is to go into the schools and provide local meats. You know, we have to then compete against some of the meat that they get in, but our goal is to provide food for our own college. So, again, to know where your meat comes from.
But if you could contract with a school district,
Well, yes, and Riverton School District actually talked to me. They want to get their own herd and have me process it so that they can provide meat for their own school too. The Riverton FFA wants to do that for their project and try to provide meat for their own school. So they have property that they have, and they want to try to get a small herd that they just continually have product for their own school. So
It's a great idea.
yeah, I think it is. One of the schools up, a Bighorn school up by Sheridan, they started doing that. They thought it would be too expensive originally, but then they found that the kids actually eat the product when they have local foods in their cafeteria. That the students can tell the difference, and it's not just meat. They have tomato plants that they buy from a greenhouse there in town. They have all sorts of produce that they buy locally. But they have this system where the community came together and worked with the school, and they provided a service for the school, and the kids said that they feel fuller, that they feel not as tired all the time, and healthier. So, you know, it's amazing when you get to know where your food comes from and have local foods within the schools, even for the kids. It's huge. So
I think it just goes back to quality versus quantity
absolutely.
in everything that we're trying to do. I mean, if we can have an umbrella of Riverton being quality,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have people want to come here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's several restaurants in town that already have Tyler McCann's beef and things in them, and you can tell the difference when you eat there. You know, it's all about the quality. People will pay a little bit more for a nice steak at a restaurant, you know, if it's quality. If it's not, they won't come back, you know.
Just about any different facet that you look at, whether it's dealing with the schools or dealing with, getting set up to sell meat at your own little counter, or training people for the workforce. Every single facet, no matter how you look at it, it's Wyoming dollars staying in Wyoming
Absolutely.
hands.
You know, we need to get away from importing so much. We do. We need to keep the money here. And what that does, it's not just, okay, so the producer made money. That money goes into the community and keeps circling. I mean, it provides employees, it provides them to be able to buy food, it's a circle. I mean, to keep that money in the state is huge. So, you know, especially land producers that don't have a lot of options, they have a way to then be able to maybe try to do it in state instead of shipping it clear to Colorado, which then costs them way much more, so their bottom dollar is like nothing then. So
Will there also be a addition of like cooking prep classes, stuff that way too? Because quality's one thing, but if someone who doesn't quite get it
I get that.
and doesn't cook it right, then they're less apt to buy the quality steak anyways.
So somewhere in there, you know, we have our culinary program, and at some point, you know, we could put on small workshops to you know, have them see, you know, here's the beginning product, here's that. That is definitely something that we can look into. I think that's a great idea. The beef checkoff, or the beef roundup, I guess it was, that they have started doing, and that's what they do. So you know, you see the product, you know, the producers bring the product, you see it before it's cooked. and then they have judges that taste it after it's cooked to see what the difference is.
Yeah, cause I think most people, most consumers actually would prefer to pay higher price for ground meat because they know how to cook it over a high quality.
Absolutely, it's easy, it's convenient, and it, you know, they don't understand, how to cook it. You're right, Vinny, that's huge. Our program, you know, will somehow, I mean, we have barbecue Thursdays where the students and I, you know, they practice something, we cook it up. I mean, we see it, we then get to taste it to see the difference. And so, you know, our students are, it started out as just fun, but that's really the real goal
Oh, the
is to
public
show
gets
them.
to come in and taste too?
Well, we might have to do that. We might have to have an open house and a barbecue. So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. Any more questions? No?
I do.
Okay.
Can they, the students, can they work in a portable meat processing plant or
Well,
truck?
That is what we have, so yes, they
Oh, so
will.
they can, so they'll
Yep,
have
the
that.
mobile slaughter unit is all portable.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that the tribes has one that they, and I've been trying to work with some of them to get students involved in this so that they learn it. But yeah, absolutely, that's what we are, is mobile. So they will learn that. They will also learn from internships, like to go out to Bo's at Genuine Meats and work a little bit under the brick and mortar too.
So do you have a process for other businesses to work with your students to?
I don't at the moment, but that is something that we are very open to and wanna do, so, yeah.
I'd love to get an old reefer and just make a, actual cutting room in the reefer.
Yeah,
Cause they're already got, you know, their meat already.
uh-huh, yeah. Well, we have a refrigerator Connex box that we're selling, so, you know,
Do you really?
somebody, yes. So, originally the plan was to use it for our aging box, but, some of the city requirements, made it unfeasible for us to attach it to our building and things, so we have it.
Yeah, I've got a cooler,
Mhm.
hanging cooler, but I've been wanting to get something to actually just put a butcher plant in.
Yeah, well, this would work. I mean, it's got the reefer unit in it, and so you could design the inside however you
I think so.
wanted to do it, so, yeah. So. Any more questions? No, I think our time is up, guys. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.